Great, thanks everybody. Thanks for having me. So what I'll do, I tried to put just a few slides for us to look at some pictures of pollinators and plants. I'm going to try to keep that to 10 minutes. So kind of an overview of what I do. I'm happy to take questions once we kind of get through that and go the direction that the group would like. So there are a lot of new people in Extension since I moved over to entomology about 10 years ago. I was a county extension educator in Stark and Summit counties, the Akron-Canton area, for most of my career, about 18 years there in Akron-Canton, and then was asked to come over to entomology to head the pollinator education program. I am an OSU alum. I have an undergrad in plant path and a master's in natural resources and environmental ed from the School of Natural Resources. So I do bleed scarlet like lots of you. So what do I do in entomology? My focus is all pollinators and it's all extension. I am lucky to have a 100% extension outreach position. And so I actually, I'm based out of Worcester, but I'm not there very often because I'm usually out across different parts of the state teaching programs, which now means I'm Zooming a lot, but I do have a statewide appointment. And I guess I could kind of encapsulate my goals as in pollinator education as to recruit and develop bee fans. So that's amateurs and professionals who are interested in pollinators and pollinator issues. I work to create pollinator habitat, and I try to provide a sort of a clearinghouse for training and resources. So I'll kind of talk about each of those different areas. Let me move here. So I work with supporting bee fans of all kinds. Here's some images of creating pollinator habitat, which we'll talk about, and then ways to support folks. But I do want to spend just a couple minutes. I'm sure Mary will talk more about this specifically in her research, but I just want to emphasize how important urban areas are for pollinators. I think it's easy to think that there aren't ecological resources in urban areas or there aren't very many bees there, but actually the research shows the opposite. And just a quick snapshot of a couple different studies. Here's a bee survey of New York City that identified 250 different species, including a species that had never been identified before. It was new to science, named Lasioglossum gotham, as a way to pay tribute to New York City. A lot of urban areas, here's an example of Toronto, are doing work in pollinator inventories, bee inventories, developing habitat across the city. And so if you think of your urban area, sometimes it's those park resources, those the waterways in Toronto, they have a massive park system. So think of your metro parks or city parks. Those are excellent resources for pollinators and can really provide important habitat. Some studies have been done in actually quite a few in Chicago, looking at, this is Millennium Park, so not necessarily a densely populated area right around here where a lot of people are living, but studies have shown that the more densely populated an area is, the more bee abundance and bee diversity. And that's because as people, we love to bring our plants with us, right? If you have a community garden project that you're working with, this can be a really rich resource for pollinators where, there may be a lot of paved surfaces around there, but lots of flowers blooming at all different times. Of course, lots of weeds, that kind of goes with community gardens, but those are great resources for pollinators as well. So anytime we, can gather people together in urban spaces, whether that's around food or around, beautiful horticultural spaces, those are really provide great potential for pollinators. And actually, so you probably know about the rusty patch bumblebee, the first bee in the continental US to be added to the endangered species list a couple years ago. And some of we don't have, at least we can't find this bee anymore in Ohio, but it is still throughout the upper Midwest. And some of the rich pockets of population for the rusty patch bumblebee are in urban areas. Part of that is because people are looking in urban areas, St. Paul, Minneapolis, for example. People are looking for the bees, and so, if more people are looking, they may tend to find them. But it also highlights how even an endangered species can find a resource, a refuge in urban areas. So some of the projects that I've been involved with, one is really about the rusty patch bumblebee. So once the rusty patch bumblebee was listed, we pulled together as a bee team from across Ohio, so led by Dr. Karen Goodell here on the right, and Dr. Randy Mitchell. Karen is with the OSU Newark campus, and Randy Mitchell with University of Akron. They pulled in some grant funds, and with their undergrads and graduate students really scoured the state looking for pollinators, or looking for the rusty patch bumblebee. And one of the projects that grew out of this is this iNaturalist project. So while Randy and their graduate students and postdocs could scour a lot of areas across Ohio, of course they couldn't get everywhere. And so this community science project through the platform iNaturalist allowed us to recruit and train community scientists to go out there and help us hunt for bees, not just the rusty patch bumblebee, but all kinds of bees across the state. So this is a screenshot from yesterday. We have about 2,500, over 2,500 observations, so images that have been taken and uploaded with about 166 species of bee identified. And you can see, look at the map there. These are our urban areas: Toledo, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. Where people are tends to be where these community scientists are active and out taking pictures and helping to inventory those bees. So we gather people together, we teach them how to use nets, we go out in the field, and we it's a live project where we don't have to kill specimens. You can put them in vials or take pictures of bees on flowers and upload those to iNaturalist. So in non-pandemic times, I do a lot of workshops out in the field, helping people, learn how to net, how to comfortably handle bees, how to use iNaturalist on their phone, or how to go back into to their computers to upload those images. And through that, we're teaching a lot of people about bees, how to, this is me holding a male carpenter bee, how, some of the bee biology, of course, male bees don't sting. This is so kind of an outgrowth out of the iNaturalist project is this bee survey. Melissa Spring is a former graduate student in entomology, now works in Karen Goodell's lab, and together we launched this statewide bee survey this year. I'm sorry, I'm on automatic advance here for some reason. And so we gathered about 150, virtually gathered about 150 bee collectors and had them do weekly bee surveys in across Ohio, every county in the state this year. So, so training community scientists, simpler things like taking pictures, but then also more advanced, being able to learn how to collect and gather and participate in a wider bee survey. Because of COVID, of course, we had to put a lot of things online, and so on the e-extension Moodle course site, we developed a Ohio Pollinators online course last year for some of my in-person programs that had to go online. And so we pulled in webinar speakers and resources and other materials and developed this Eastern Bees 101 course, which has been beta tested, and now we hope to be able to launch that this spring. So this will be a certificate program for folks who want to learn a little more about bee identification. There are videos and quizzes and some ways to interact with other participants. We try to wrap in webinars to those online pieces, those courses. And so our webinar series continue. You probably just got the notice about the Living Landscape speaker series that starts next Friday. We did our 1-week virtual insect university a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago in October. And then we had a monthly pollinator webinar series last year. And so I try to record, of course, all those sessions and share those recordings. And I do that through the Bee Lab website. So I have one source, kind of a one-stop shop, I hope, for those webinars, for courses that we're offering, for research news, for fact sheets and other plant lists, other materials related to pollinators in a broad sense. So while there are honeybees on the image, it's really all kinds of bees and pollinators. And here's just a list of some of our OSU fact sheets and bulletins. And certainly not to imply that I've written all these. We have some really great cooperation from across the college and beyond to pull together bee resources. And I try to post these here so that folks can find them. So as an outgrowth out of that bee survey, we developed the Bees of Ohio Field Guide this year, which is a more in-depth, as you can see, look at bee identification. And that's a free PDF, again, on that website, on the Bee Lab website. And we're looking to develop another field guide this year on specialist bees. So those are bees that have specific pollen needs. For example, they may only be able to feed their young pollen from ironweed or from aster, for example. So we'll have we envision a field guide that will have just those specialist bees. So just another resource that is on that website. We have a bee poster, so we try to have some materials that we made a pull-up banner about bees, and it's amazing how people are really interested once they dig in a little bit. They're interested to learn about bees and how to identify them, how to tell a bee from a wasp or a fly. So another element of what I do is work on creating pollinator habitat, and we are fortunate to have some funds through Jim Jasinski's IPM grant to allow us to grow and distribute flats of native pollinator plants. Maybe some of you have partnered with us on that. These are for education and demonstration sites across the state. We provide some signage to go along with that. Here, year before last, we had a theme of specialist bees, so our sign went along with that. This year, COVID year, was supposed to be plants suited for urban areas, so tough plants that can do well in smaller spaces, but we weren't able to grow last year. So here on the right, we do have about a 2-acre pollinator plot in Worcester near the new Ag Engineering building, if you know where that is. That has been seeded and plugged in certain places with some pollinator habitat. And down here is OSU Mansfield. So, having those demonstration sites across the state really enhances what folks are able to do, whether it's having a field day or master gardener training or what have you. So as I said, we couldn't grow plants last year because Bob Philbrun, who's up at the Muck Crops branch, he's an amazing grower. He and his wife, Jenny Philbrun, used to have a perennial plant business. And so they're just amazing resources. They grow beautiful plants. But of course, Bob couldn't be in the greenhouse because of COVID at the beginning, and so we weren't able to grow or distribute plants last year, and Bob uses some Master Gardener assistants to help grow those flats, and we weren't sure that was going to be able to happen this year. And so this year, because we have some grant funds to continue to support these demonstration projects, we're going with this theme, the Great Plants, Great Networks theme, where we are targeting specific partners that we're already working with, so established educational demonstration pollinator plots, and we're linking with with Prairie Nursery, and we'll have 2 flats with a total of 64 plant plugs that will be mailed to these partner gardens in April to enhance habitat. And those plants will be from these 10 species. Listed here, there'll be a sign with this network. The back of it will have more information about both the network and the critters that benefit from those plants. So that'll be, and actually that's something that you may be interested in and want to participate in. I'm taking applications right now. And some of you have probably already signed up for that, but I encourage you to contact me if you'd like to do that. It's just a simple sign up on a form where you put in your mailing information, a little bit of information about your garden, what your goals are there. And I'm really looking to work with kind of established sites because those plants will come out in April. Mary Gardner and I are looking to pull something together in 2022, depending on our IPM funds, that will kind of look at some of those great plants that that I mentioned, these kind of top 10, but more broad than that, some good horticultural plants that can be used in the landscape, along with some design ideas to get people kind of into easily bridged over what they can do in the landscape. We're kind of looking as a model to the Lexington, Kentucky plant by numbers idea, where they have these wonderful handouts with a simple design and plant recommendations, easy planting tips as a way for backyard folks to be able to do something, right? Do one thing, plant this small pollinator patch in a sunny space. So that was a really fast run through. I'm sorry, I kind of was on the races there to get through those, but wanted to give you a feel for some of the projects that I'm working on and ways that we might be able to collaborate. And I'm happy to take questions now or as we go through other portions of the session.